Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Angel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today is the beginning of a new reading vlog. It's going to be the Summerween reading vlog because Summerween is taking place starting this Friday, I believe, through next Thursday. This is a yearly summer readathon where you are trying to read scary books, horror books, thrillers, mysteries, anything that kind of fits that summer horror Halloween type vibe. And so I very last minute decided, after talking to Michelle from Bookishly Michelle, that I wanted to participate. Right now it is technically Thursday night and I'm going to start reading a little bit now, but I do want to share with you my TBR, the books that I plan on reading for the next week, and how they fit into the actual theme, as well as like the challenges that there are, because there are a few challenges. So the first challenge that actually has to do with a book, I believe, is reading a book with a Halloween color or an orange color on the cover, and that is going to be Bathhouse, which is my current read. This is by PJ Vernon, and this is a queer thriller about a man who is deciding to cheat on his partner, and then something really terrible happens in the midst of going to go cheat, and now he's kind of like in this, like it says on the back, a game of cat and mouse, because the person that he was going to hook up with actually tried to kill him, and now he's trying to hide it from his partner, and he's also trying to investigate what's going on. He's working with the police, and it is really piquing my interest. I started to actually film a vlog for this, so after this TBR clip I will include those clips that I already filmed, but right now technically I'm starting at page 118. The next challenge was to read a book with the word haunt in the title, or haunting, and I downloaded this just today, and this is Hometown Haunts, hashtag Love Oz YA Horror Tales. This is a horror anthology all by Australian authors, and it is all queer horror. Well, actually no, I believe it's mostly queer horror, but yeah, I'm excited to read it. I don't remember, I think I saw it on like either Goodreads recommends, or maybe like it was floating around on Twitter at some point, but I wanted to read it for a while, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have a really big plethora of different types of horror. The next challenge for a book is actually to read a slasher, and I have that right up here. That is going to be my biggest book, I think, and this is going to be My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I believe this is a final girl slasher type book. This one is a much heftier book, and I know that in the past Stephen Graham Jones has been a little hit or miss for me, but it's been on my TBR for a while, and I haven't read a slasher, I think, probably since Riley Sager's book that was set in like a camp, so hopefully that also pulls me in. If you're interested in seeing me read these over the next couple days, stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing probably like 2 to 3 day vlogs. I'm ready for Summerween and to get into the horror summer spirit. We got back from a like 4 or 5 day vacation from New York, and I got a bunch of books, so that's going to be its own separate like haul video. I didn't actually vlog during it, but one of the books that I did pick up in paperback, which I didn't realize it was out in paperback yet, is Bathhouse by PJ Vernon. I've only gotten a few pages in as of last night, but something that has been happening with me recently is I've not been as drawn to physically reading a book versus, well, reading a physical book versus reading on my Kindle. So the font is very small for me, which is such a stupid thing to say, but I'm getting into this right now, and I'm going to be reading it more after work. But right now I am working through emails for my usual job, and after work probably going to be driving around a little bit, getting some stuff done. But I just want to touch base, start this vlog off right, and let you know that I am reading. So I'm going to get back to work now and try to read a few more pages of this in my downtime, and I'll touch base with you in a little while once I've gotten more in depth into the story. It's a few hours later. I'm feeling kind of crappy today, so reading has been slow going, but I am on to the second part now, and I'm like about 45 pages in, and it's getting pretty intense. I would say that like there are some interesting things that were included in the synopsis that are, I think, attempts to manipulate you into thinking about the characters in a certain way. For instance, Oliver, the main, well, there are 2 main characters. It's Oliver and his partner, Nathan, and you get to see from both of their perspectives. But Oliver is noted right on the beginning of the synopsis as a recovering addict. It's interesting because, like, saying that he is currently recovering from addiction, and you don't really know what it is, except that he has sobriety, like he is sober from whatever he was doing. You're also dropped into this story where he is pursuing an adulterous relationship. He is theoretically happy in his relationship with his partner Nathan, but you're set up as like, oh, well, he's an addict and he's an adulterer. And it's just interesting how that is already playing out. But on top of that, just their relationship in general is really interesting. We haven't actually been able to see the two partners in the same scene together unless it's like a flashback or something. Their relationship is very complex, and I feel like I haven't read a relationship in a book before that feels so real. I feel like these are things that some of them are like throwaway things or throwaway thoughts, like a white lie to a partner, or maybe like waiting a little bit longer to call someone back, but it all builds up into this like mysterious thing that's happening, and I'm having a really good time with it, even though there's so much like guilt and unease and unhappiness that is going on, and there's so much questioning. Like, it's a wild ride, even though like I'm less than 50 pages in. I am pleasantly surprised though. This is the first official check-in for Summerween. It is Friday right now, about 3:30, and I'm gonna get some reading in because the day's kind of slow at work, and I technically am owed a lunch break. Working from home is kind of all over the place, but regardless, my first book, like I mentioned, is The Bathhouse, that I'm still reading from the clips that were not Summerween. And right now, I stopped last night on chapter 31, page 185, and I think I started to notice this, but our characters are all completely unreliable. And I mentioned before how the back of the book, the synopsis in general, does try to lead you in that direction, but there's still like this interesting dynamic between Oliver and his partner Nathan, and it just keeps butting heads. There's a lot of secrets that they keep from one another, and there's a lot of like animosity over their entire relationship. Because, hi Bento, are you gonna come join us? Their relationship was really built more on the basis of Oliver getting over his addiction, which again is an interesting plot point, because you're seeing how someone is getting out of that perspective, out of being addicted to drugs, how they change their life view on things. And Nathan, being a doctor, his instinct and his literal career is to try to cure someone. And obviously it's kind of a toxic trait in a relationship to always want to fix the other person, and we're really in that kind of relationship where Nathan is trying to help fix Oliver, and they're so codependent on that part of the relationship where Nathan is necessary to Oliver staying clean and being sober. And so it's just a very tenuous relationship as is, throwing in the mix of all this drama, Oliver having almost been killed, and now we're dealing with police reports, and it's just getting really scary for both of them. There are just absolutely so many trigger warnings, which I will include in my Goodreads review, but like it has everything. It is a very dark book. It's really intense, and so like lots of trigger warnings that I'm gonna put on this one, but it's still gonna be like a 5-star read as far as I know. So I'm gonna dive in, and I will check in with you once the workday is over. I'm thinking that tonight we might go trade in some books as well, so maybe we'll have some new horror books for sharing to read later next week. I just traded in stuff at Bull Moose down here in Salem, and picked up a few things, so I just want to show you those really quickly before I drive home, because I had to like fight myself to actually stop reading for a little bit and come down here, because it's about half an hour from my house, and I just really wanted to keep reading. Like, I think I'm at page 230 now in the other book. Regardless, I want to show you these 3 books. 2 of them I think were roughly on my TBR, but they are officially now. This first one is Tiny Nightmares, and it says Very Short Tales of Horror, and I am really excited because it calls out a few. It says Jack Jemk, which I believe wrote, I know the book, but anyways, the cover's here and I have it, but I haven't read it yet. Stephen Graham Jones, and it's sectioned off into heads, hearts, limbs, and viscera. And when I do look in it, first of all, there's some really cool artwork in here, and it's like all color on the inside when there is artwork, and every page has like the pages numbered with like pink blood. It says spine-tingling flash fiction that terrifies and delights, and every story looks to only be about like 5 pages or less, so that sounds really interesting, and it'll be a cool little anthology to get me into different authors. The next one was Mountain Peril by Tom Eslick, which is, no offense Tom, but this cover is absolutely horrendous, but when I saw it said White Mountains Mystery, I was immediately intrigued. So this is actually a mystery set in New Hampshire, and obviously I live in New Hampshire. It says it's about New Hampshire's Mount Washington, which is a very common landmark here. Like I feel like you'll see people in any state that have a car that says like I climbed Mount Washington. It says when a boy is reported missing, Will Buchanan, who is a high school science teacher and part-time search and rescue volunteer, springs into action. He soon discovers he finds a woman lying in a shallow grave nearby, and a second woman to be found murdered on the mountain that month. Ugh. The author is actually an English teacher in Andover, New Hampshire, and he's been hiking the Mount Washington. Wow. He's also been hiking the White Mountains for more than 30 years, and I just think that was really cool because obviously New Hampshire, I don't often get to see books that are set in New Hampshire or by New Hampshire authors, and so immediately it might be kind of like an book, but I think that I'm going to connect with it and probably give it a higher rating once I read it because it's set in New Hampshire and I might be more likely to recognize the setting. The last book I picked up, I believe I added this pretty recently to my TBR, and it has a really original cover, and I'm very curious how I'm going to read this. So this is The Strange Library. This is The Strange Library by Haruki Murakami, and it has this like cover that flips open, and yeah, I'm kind of at a loss. The library was, oh, that's the first page of the book. Okay, we're already in it. But the description says a lonely boy, a mysterious girl, and a tormented sheep man plot their escape from the nightmarish library of internationally acclaimed best-selling author Haruki Murakami. And it's, so I don't know how else to describe this, but the font is absolutely enormous. Like it's like that throughout, and it has these inserts of just weird grainy pictures. I don't know. I don't even remember where I saw this. I think somebody I know on Goodreads or on Twitter or something recently read this, and I added it because it just sounded interesting, and I have read the majority of 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami and really enjoyed their writing, but I never got to finish that, and this one's a much shorter dive in, so maybe if I read this, it'll get me geared back up again for that author. So those are just the 3 books that I got. I'm gonna drive home now and get back to reading. Hopefully we can finish our book tonight because it's geared into like a whole different thing. Like, it is so frustrating to read because this relationship, all the relationships in this book are so toxic and like spiraling. Everyone's spiraling. Everyone is becoming a weird character now. Like, no one is trustworthy. I don't know. Like, every page you're just like, I'm like pulling my hair out because the characters are becoming so like cruel to each other and to themselves, and like okay, let's drive home. I don't even, what time is it? I'm so lost. I have finished it. I finished our first book for Summerween. Holy shit. It's 5 stars for me, and all I can say is like the last probably 20 to 30 pages just felt a little bit like a soap opera. It was a little bit extreme and over the top, but I didn't hate it. There was like one paragraph that I was like, this is too far, and I almost bumped it down to a 4-star for me, but I will still give it 5 stars. Overall, aside from all of the toxic trigger warnings, it was just so good. And hi Bento, let me take a quick clip of her because she looks adorable. You look very pretty. No, you're not gonna say hi? Miss Bento. Whatever. What is Bento doing? She's sniffing. What are you digging for? You're very pretty. Thank you for the slow blinks. Okay. Slowly over time, instead of like the thriller aspect being so in the forefront, it becomes more about their relationship and how they've built like 5 or 6 years or whatever off this very toxic energy. It was just very good. Definitely one of my like favorite books so far that I've read this year, and I'll be honest, I haven't read a lot of books this year. They've been mostly manga. If you think you can stomach it, if you think that the trigger warnings that I did mention are not enough to tear you away from it, please let me know if you read it or if you intend to read it and what you think, because it was just so startling. For now, I'm gonna chill and I'm gonna start another book tomorrow, but I think this is a good way to cap it off for today. It is day 3 of Summerween, and I didn't get any reading done yesterday. Well, that's a little bit of a lie, but for the majority of the day, I did not read. I watched a bunch of movies with Jose, and I decided it was the perfect day, you know, like a Saturday when you shouldn't be doing anything serious, to just completely like rip apart my bookshelves in the living room, which is our apple crates, and like redo them, because I was having one of those like I'm trapped in my own space kind of feelings. So I redid that, and it's a much cleaner environment over there. It was not a reading day, clearly, from that description. And so I am going to be reading today. I only really have one thing I want to do otherwise. Last night, though, I did start reading Boys of the Dead, which is a zombie horror BL that I'm not 100% on board with yet. Says, deep in the mountains, Linus and Connor hidden away inside a sea can. There, the two of them survive living off human flesh. Late at night, they sneak into the church graveyard to dig up fresh corpses, chopping them into pieces to take home. Why does Linus repeatedly commit this awful sin? All for his beloved Connor. If he wanted to survive, he needed to view other people as nothing more than cows or pigs. Over time, his sins began to pile up. Whether human or zombie, the story is about those pierced by love's arrow in a world on the brink. Step forth and allow yourself to be sucked into the world of Tomita Duji, which I probably mispronounced. I am about like 60% through maybe, and don't know how I feel about it. The first story was about a character who was potentially being sexually abused by his kidnapper, and things kind of resolved, but now I'm a little confused. That's where we're at right now. It does portray an interesting look at like characters in love, which I agree with from the synopsis, but I'm not fully invested yet, which is weird. But we're getting some unreliable narrator vibes, and also we're not really sure what's real and what isn't. I am going to start reading My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I will probably pick this up around, it's technically lunchtime now, but I'll probably pick this one up in a couple hours because I do want to watch another movie. So another unsuccessful day of reading, but I did finish Boys of the Dead. I wasn't that in love with it. There were a lot of instances, I think I started to mention earlier, where the narrators are unreliable. There were at least 2 stories in this. No, pretty much every story in this manga was like lead up for the whole beginning of the scene, which was each chapter, and then at the end, or like the last few like panels, it would be like, oh, just kidding, I lied to you, or just kidding, I was like having psychological effects that made it look like this is what I think is happening. Like, I loved the zombie aspect. The artwork was really cool, and like the story itself was interesting. A lot of implied incest and a lot of implied pedophilia, and then it would like switch and it was like, just kidding, I lied, or just kidding, I was telling you a story. And so I was really on the fence over whether I should be offended or if that was the point. Like, the point is to offend you and make you think that it's strange. I was very confused. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars again. Hey, no need to bite me, Bento. I think she's mad because I'm not usually in here and she's a little sleepy. Now, come on. I was able to download an ebook copy onto my Kindle of My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is going to help me read it a little faster. I've realized that, like, me with my very weak wrists, I don't tend to like reading a physical book unless it's like a very light paperback, and the copy I have is hardcover. Just one of those reader preferences I've noticed over the years. I am gonna end the vlog here for today. I'm gonna obviously keep vlogging through the rest of the week, and I think tomorrow we're gonna do some Instagram spot hunting together, because I wanted to do a little bit today, but it was epically hot. There's a few spots that I would really like to go check out, Instagram spots, Instagram like shots for. I know number 1, it'll get me out of the house, and number 2, it'll look a lot nicer. So I think that's a nice little surprise and prize for myself. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a couple days for the next part of this vlog.